we're fortunate enough to have been awarded this project. It was we worked with the city several times before and with a lot of successful projects, but this one particular project was very high profile for both of us. It was a 123,000 square foot adaptive reuse of an existing Walmart. Adaptive reuse for us is essentially a repurposing of a building for a function it wasn't really intended for. The adaptive reuse of this particular Walmart saved thousands of tons of garbage and refuse going into the landfill. One of our favorite quotes is, "The greenest building is the one already built." Some of the initial challenges were, you typically don't design a library of this size on one single floor. It's 123,000 square feet, like I mentioned, but it's all on one floor. Librarians really don't like to have lose control visually, so you really make this building on 3 or 4, maybe 5 floors, and so to try to maintain visual control for the librarians was essential. So that was one of our main problems, is to divide the spaces up so visual control could be had from many different areas. After that, one of the most important things was given to us as a moniker for the whole project was, it better not look like a Walmart. For us, ACM is almost synonymous with Alucobond, and one thing we like about Alucobond is its consistency, its dimensional stability, its sheen, and its resistance to oil canning. One of the main properties that this particular product had that we like is its weight as well. We had these very long cantilevering canopies that we couldn't put stucco on because it's so heavy, and brick is the same thing. So it made a lot of sense to use this product because it's about 1/8 of the weight of stucco. Well, not necessarily. We wanted a panel for the window and door accents, but we naturally gravitated towards Alucobond. The existing building walls were split-face block. So we wanted to have some sort of break in the texture where we were poking holes for entrances and exits and fenestration. So we tried to take those brand new openings and trim them with something nice and smooth and even and kind of had a nice sheen on it. So again, Alucobond fit the bill in that case. In this area, stucco, block, and brick are predominant materials because they're cheap, and typically we don't get budgets that allow for Alucobond. But in this particular project, we had, like I said, not necessarily a generous budget, but a budget in which we could actually enter some things that we wouldn't normally have. And again, it fit the bill because it's very light, it's very strong, it's resistant to oil canning. And one thing we wanted to make sure of is we had a light tower that we wanted to have some reflection of the light on the canopy. So at night, when we have these color changing LEDs, it would reflect that light, and that mica color from Alucobond does exactly that. We wanted to keep the color, not necessarily color. We had chosen some colors for the stucco and wanted to try to stay in kind of a tint range where it would take the colors from the sky and from the LED lighting and reflect those. So if it was a color, it would kind of change the color. So having it a gray color actually pulls the color and actually changes it, and kind of neat. Changes during the day and changes at night too. That was not necessarily an afterthought, but it made sense to use that up front, because on the signage we had the concrete, we had the block, we had and we just said, well, why don't we just use the same sign out on the street, on the monument sign that we're using at the reflecting pool up front. Well, other than your typical budget constraints, one of the issues we seem to have is the attachment system. The attachment systems of ACM, they're not typically provided by the panel manufacturer. And so as an architect, we don't really understand how those things are supposed to be attached. But the Alucobond website helps out a lot because they've got a lot of downloadable content where you can find the technical details you need to have that attachment process. As far as weather is concerned, typically it's not an issue for us here in South Texas, but on March of 2012, we had a severe hailstorm with about golf ball sized hail with about a 40 to 60 mile an hour wind. So it was quite a bit like a golf ball shot out of a cannon. And after the hailstorm, we actually went out and saw a lot of damage in local buildings and houses, and we went by the library to assess what kind of damage they had, and we didn't find any. So the Alucobond product held up very well in a pretty severe hailstorm. A little bit. The city didn't require us to do any LEED certification or anything like that, but we did make it sustainable and as green as we possibly could, if that's a word we can use anymore. We understand that there's a lot of recyclable content, post and pre-consumer content in the Alucobond product, and that really makes us feel better about using it. From what I've heard, the city and residents are pretty pleased with it. I think this can be corroborated by the enormous amount of people that have recently come out of the woodwork to sign up for library cards. As I understand it, there are about 133,000 people in the city of McAllen, and about half of them, since we've opened, have gotten a library card. So what was typical traffic for about a month a couple of years ago is a typical traffic now for a single weekend. So in about 2 days, they get what they used to get in a month.